We have a new CBSN special to tell you about. It focuses on American manufacturing, specifically in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania. After years of plant closures and layoffs, the city's become a shell of its former self. And this past November, lifelong Democrats voted for change in the form of President Donald Trump. Our Jamie Yuccas recently went to Erie to spend some time and hear from them. Here's a preview of her report.
Start our first motor starter.
We are in the classroom section at the Erie Institute of Technology. This is where a number of laid-off workers have come to get retrained into new skills and basically get trained into jobs that they've never done before in a relatively short amount of time. And what's fascinating to me is that they are all middle-aged white men who I think their families are very dependent upon them working.
Make sure you get that disconnect.
Right here? Put this one.
Did you ever think that this is what you would be doing?
Well, if you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be in school at 54 years old, I would have told you were crazy.
So what made you come?
Well, I lost my job a year ago yesterday, and I really didn't have any options. Guess it's time to reinvent myself.
Jamie Yuccas is with us here now. Jamie, there's so much more than just a few minutes that we saw right there, but what was your biggest takeaway?
Well, in what you just saw right there, I think is a really good example. You see them being retrained, right? There are all these workers who have been laid off over the last few years. They were making $30, $40 an hour in some cases at General Electric in the transportation hub there in Erie, Pennsylvania. Now they're being retrained, and as you heard, Jim said reinventing himself at 54 years old. But his biggest prospect is making maybe $9, $10, $11 an hour in a job in Erie, Pennsylvania. So you'll learn later that Jim is actually facing the idea of relocating. He's been in Erie, Pennsylvania his entire life. His family's from there. And that's what a lot of people in Erie are facing. Either stay in a town, as Jim calls it, a sinking ship, or get out.
It seems like it's an emotional journey in a couple different ways. I mean, first you lose your job, then you think there's hope possibly in other jobs. What did you learn in the time that you spent there as far as that journey for them?
I learned that the people in Erie, and I think probably so many other towns where manufacturing has been such a big part of those communities, right? Where they had middle incomes, they bought houses, they bought cars, they were able to take their families to dinner. With those jobs gone, there's so much stress. The families in some instances are ripped apart. They have to decide if they're going to leave or if they're going to stay.
Right.
I think for me, the takeaway was you and I report all the time on so many people have lost their job. This plant is closing. This plant is moving. To actually go to an area and see how it impacts not only just the families, but really the entire community of Erie, Pennsylvania. And then to think that that's happening not only in Pennsylvania, but Ohio and Wisconsin and some of these other Rust Belt cities really hit home to me.
And that seemed to be the reason why we saw so many of these Rust Belt cities change politically and go from voting for a Democrat no matter what to saying, I'll go with change in President Trump.
Well, there are some people in Erie, Pennsylvania, they were 70, 80 years old, said, I have voted my entire life with the Democratic Party and always gone to the voting booth and down the line blue.
Right.
This time I went in and I voted for Donald Trump. And I said, well, what made you do that? And they said, I really believe that we have to change something. We've been promised change before. For generations and decades, we have seen that nothing has worked. He's a businessman. He should be able to bring back jobs. We believe what he says. He came to our community. He promised us he would bring him back, and they went in the voting booth and voted for him.
So do they believe he's going to bring back a manufacturing job at $30, $40 an hour? Because, again, there are jobs that came back there, but not at $30, $40 an hour in that department.
I think that's truly the question for people. There is Erie Insurance is there, and those are good-paying jobs. And they see things like that, and they see healthcare. They see other industries pop up. And if they have the retraining in, some of the positions we saw, like electricians and those kinds of things, they're hoping maybe they don't bring back the transportation jobs at General Electric, but maybe there's some other industry that Donald Trump can bring in. Because I would ask, you have automation, you have other things that have come into play. Some of the
again, it's retraining for a lot of them,
right? But they're willing to do that because they want to stay, they want to be middle class, and they want to they want to be successful within their family, and they do think Donald Trump will be able to bring something. They may not be able to answer exactly what it is, but they're hoping that he can figure out something as a businessman.
And do they give you any sense of, we all talk timelines, how long it will take, or how long they're willing to give the president before they see if change really is happening?
Well, many of them voted for Barack Obama 8 years ago, and they believed that he would bring change. That was the big
same message, yes,
campaign
change.
message, right? So they thought it would happen with him. They've now watched for 8 years. Some of them gave him a second chance in a second term and said, I'll vote for you again. Many of them said, we cannot have Hillary Clinton come in and continue the policies of Barack Obama.
Right.
It just can't happen. So let's try this. When you go back and talk to them, even a couple weeks later, some of the people we interviewed, they said, well, we're willing to give him more time. He's only been in office, since the end of January. But we hope that he comes out with a plan soon. We hope that he can give a detailed plan of some of the ideas that he has, because they've now watched him do executive orders on other things. They see that he is able to take action, but this is their biggest issue.
Right.
So they want him to start taking action as soon as he possibly can. But they've said they've waited decades before. If he can at least have a plan out there and show that he's trying in this area specifically, I think at this point that's enough for them.
Right. Jamie, we appreciate it. We look forward to the full report. Jamie Yuccas with our CBSN Original America Manufacturing Hope. It airs tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, only right here on CBSN. Thanks, Jamie.